Part 2 of Early NASCAR Wives. This one's going to center on Judy Allison, aka Mrs. Bobby Allison. And that lady went through so much in her life, sadly ended a few years ago. Bobby Allison may not have been the easiest man to get along with. He ride hopped quite a bit, but she did go through a lot. First, Bobby Allison was known as a ride hopper for a long time. He filled his own car sometimes. He probably spent some money, but let's go back 1971 when the factories pulled out. He had finished second or third in points in 1970. I'd had to look it up. Missed one race, or he probably would have been the points champion. But then the factories pulled out. In 1970, split time between Mario Rossi's Dodge and his own Dodge. Worked well. Just didn't have his own car ready to go for the Richmond, the race right after Daytona 500. And Rossi's apparently wasn't entered. 1971, he decides to field his own Dodge and tries he might some mechanical failures. Had some good runs, but also had some mechanical failures. And after the Rebel race in the spring at Darlington, he said, "I'm parking it." Well, he did not know David Pearson had parted ways with the Holman and Moody team after that race. Ralph Holman said, "Drive our car." Well, Bobby Allison gets in that car and immediately discovers something's wrong. Bobby Allison built race cars, and he knew what the car needed. He went back to his Hueytown shop and built a piece himself. Won a whole bunch of races in 71. Had he started a year in the Holman Moody car and run all the races, he probably would have been champion. Well, then at the end of the year, Holman Moody disbanded. But this time, instead of going on his own, Bobby Allison took his Coca-Cola sponsorship to Junior Johnson. Published reports say he paid $13,000 out of his own pocket for that ride. As Junior wanted $100,000 and Bobby's sponsorship was $87,000. Whether that's true or not, there's been charges and countercharges. It's water under the bridge. Has a great season. Wins, I think, about 10 races. Everything's looking good, but Bobby Allison and Junior Johnson, for whatever reason, cannot get along. So in 1973, he fields his own team again. Again, spending money, I'm sure. Judy Allison's home raising the kids. 73, and for the most of 74, he fields his own team until Roger Penske with the Matador says, "Drive for me." By the way, Bobby Allison also drove Indy a couple times and got out of the contract for the second year because Judy didn't want him to, and Roger let him out of the contract. Probably one of the few good things Penske ever did. You know, if you've listened to me regularly, you know I'm not a fan of Penske, and I don't make any bones about it. But drove the Matador in 74 and got the win at Ontario, California, the last race of the year. Of course, that win was tainted, sometimes today called encumbered. He had illegal valve train parts, fined $9,100. 75, again in the Matador, wins some races, but all of a sudden Penske parks the car. So we're not racing anymore. So he's out of NASCAR, was leading the points when they parked it. Penske said he had to concentrate on his Indy cars. Okay. So he's out at 76. Penske's going to run Mercury's. American Motors pulled out. Going to run Mercury's with Cam 2 sponsorship. Well, Bobby Allison takes a nasty tumble down the backstretch in the spring race at Rockingham. Has a terrible year. Crashes a short track car in Minnesota. Has to get out of the car several races for a relief driver. He'd start the race for points and get out, but does not win. Penske, in 77, he leads Penske and decides he's going to run a Matador out of his own shop. Complete disaster. He has sponsorship. Again, Judy Allison's enduring all this. Well, doesn't win a race. 78, things start looking up. He hooks up with Bud Moore, wins his first Daytona 500, drives for more through 80, but once in a GM car. Ford did not have much of a program back then, even up into the 80s, not like they do now. So in 81, he gets in Harry Renier's car, wins some races, but again, reputation for ride hopping, they part ways at the end of the year. 82, he gets in the Dygaard car that had been vacated by Darrell Waltrip, famously buying up his contract at the end of 1980. Ricky Rudd drove it a year without much success. Of course, he did okay. Rudd did okay later on. Wins some races. 83, wins a championship. Wins Daytona, forget which year, in the Dygaard car. And things are looking up again. Well, I think it was 85, he gets mad at Dygaard. They steal the second car, which he said is a violation of his contract. So he leaves, goes out on his own the rest of the year, runs both Buick and a Ford in a few races. But then 86, things start looking better. He hooks up with the Stavola brothers. He has a Miller Beer sponsorship. Now, this is a two-car team with Bobby Hill and also with Miller Beer sponsorship. They win Talladega, I think, in 86. 87, I'm not sure if he won any. But 88 starts really looking up. Wins the Daytona 500 plus the Busch race the day before. Then they go to Pocono. And he's apparently trying to get back to the pits with a flat tire and goes sideways and says hits square in the door by a driver named Jaco Giacomo. Critically injured. They don't know if he's going to live. He does, but brain injury. To this day, I understand he can't remember winning the 88 Daytona 500. And that's the one he won with his son Davey in second. He can't remember it. Well, of course, he goes through recuperation. He does live. He's still living today. And then tries to start a team, and that's a disaster. Doesn't do much at all. Disbands it. Then in 92, Bobby's retired, of course. They go to Michigan, has an ARCA Cup weekend. In fact, I went to the Cup race that year at Michigan. Their son Clifford is killed in a practice crash for the ARCA race. So Judy Allison's had to endure that, but it gets worse. 1993, after losing Alan Kulwicki on the 1st of April in an airplane crash, Davey Allison and Red Farmer is flying Davey's new helicopter into Talladega to watch Neil Bonnet's son test. Crashes. Davey's gravely injured, dies the next day. So Judy Allison, within a year or a little bit over, has lost two sons. They say it's the hardest thing for a parent. I've never been a parent. It's the hardest thing for a parent to do is bury a child. And within a year or so, Judy Allison's buried two. And taking care of a husband who, well, as time goes on, Judy and Bobby Allison divorce, which is surprising because they are a strong Catholic faith. But then, when Adam Petty got killed, they talk and they decide to drive to Randall, North Carolina from Hueytown together for the funeral. By the time they got back, they remarried. And of course, the marriage lasted till Judy's death a few years ago. But both Linda Petty and especially Judy Allison went through so much with their husbands' racing careers. It's unreal. But just kind of, I didn't know I was going to make this two parts, but when the other one went like 12 minutes, I did. But yeah, the early lives, especially in the 50s, death and serious injuries happened so much in racing. Wonder anybody survived some of them days, but you just hope it don't happen. But any serious fan, driver, crew member, they know it can and has happened on pit road. In fact, the death of a crewman's what led to pit road speed limits. That's the only time I know of I've been at a race where somebody died as a result of a racing accident, when Bill Elliott's crew member got killed in Atlanta in 1990. But it just unbelievable what some of these early racing NASCAR wives went through.